to episode 9 of Floating Through Film. This week we start our series on Charlie Chaplin. This was my pick, so we'll get into that in a second of why I chose Chaplin. But before that, let me introduce our other hosts. With me today, I have Luke.
Hello.
And Blake.
What's up?
And so I'm going to ask you guys in a second about what your guys' thoughts on Chaplin are and everything, but I guess I'll just give a little preamble on why I chose this one. I'll say a couple of reasons. The two first reasons that come to my mind. One of them is because I kind of just like going in order of things when I watch movies. I'm sure you guys have noticed that somehow I watch movies, but like I like going by director, and when I watch a director, I like going in chronological order the best I can. Yeah. And so when thinking about how to start, talking about at least what I pick different series for this podcast, I kind of want to go at least how my personal favorites in order as well. And Chaplin, one of the first, and he's definitely one of my favorites, so it kind of made sense.
Yeah.
And the other reason, I guess this is more why I like Chaplin, is I've mentioned this, and I'll keep mentioning this throughout the podcast, is I love movies that are kind of have like a poetic nature to them. Yeah. And Chaplin, like just with how simple, how elegant a lot of his movies are, especially when he starts honing his craft in his later movies. Yeah. Like they feel like they pack such a big hit, but at the same like they pack a huge punch, but at the same time they're very, easy to watch, and we'll probably say that a few times throughout this episode. Yeah. But at the same time, they feel like they hit you at the same, like especially with a kid, when he starts getting his features, yeah. But they still hit you very emotionally at the same time, and he plays that balance maybe better than anyone. Yeah. So
honestly, the features kind of gave him more time to hit you, honestly, which is interesting. Yes. But
no, and that's why I'm kind of excited to talk about the shorts a little later on. But throughout the course of the series, we'll get to see how Chaplin evolved as an artist. From becoming a pure slapstick, gag kind of comedy artist. Like a lot of comedies were back then. To really, trying to get a serious story, some melodrama, some serious story in there at the same time, while still trying to keep the gags and the lightness at the same time. So, like most great poetry movies, you're trying to find that balance between the two. So, and he did it in a really special way. But I'll stop for now. What do you what like? I guess the way I'll ask you guys is, what did you guys think of Chaplin coming into this? And I know Luke, you've watched a decent amount of him, so we'll start with you.
Do you want me to ask like
what are your thoughts? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Just what are my thoughts on Chaplin? Okay,
yeah, coming into this.
Well, yeah, coming to this, my favorite thoughts on Chaplin. Not my favorite. Yeah, my thoughts on Chaplin generally. What I like about him is that he can blend comedy and drama. He can make you laugh, but in the same time frame to like make you cry. Basically, he's so good at blending that together.
Yes.
And I'm kind of interested in seeing like diving in more and seeing like how he does it more technically. But that's kind of what strikes me out for him. And honestly, watching all these shorts, I've noticed that like why I like watching a lot of them is that through each one, no matter what you're watching, you can know he like had a passion for it. Like he like put like his heart into every single one, which I really appreciate. Because movies where people put their heart into are like they're amazing to watch. Like even if you might not like it as much as
and
a lot of other movies.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I guess a huge advantage of that is just knowing he was directing it, and he was acting, and he's in the center of every scene. So like he kind of he had just so much control over it. Yeah. Like
he's just like
and the amount of different ideas he has throughout each one of the shorts and stuff like that.
I can just imagine
he has to put his heart into it.
I can just imagine like the concepts. Like he'll be walking around one day. He's like, oh, I got an idea for another one. Yes. Like it's funny to think about. But yeah, that's mainly why I love Chaplin.
What about you, Blake? Had you watched a lot of Chaplin coming into this?
No, I think the only ones I'd seen was, let me look for sure, but I know I'd seen The Gold Rush and Modern Times, and I think that was the only ones I'd seen before from him. Yeah, they were. And so like I didn't really know like much about him. I enjoyed those movies I watched from him, like, but whenever I watched these Charlie Chaplin movies, it's not like I was fully invested in silent films at the time. Cause like
you were just watching.
I was just watching them because they were classic movies.
Like we all did back
at some point. Now, well, like last year, maybe it was 2 years ago at this point, but I had like a portion there of the year where I just watched 30 silent movies. Don't remember what they are anymore. I'd have to look again. But at that point in time, like you kind of just have to spend time with silent movies to like get the flow of them, and so like I'm more in tune with what silent movies are now. And so watching Charlie Chaplin this time, I was I loved it, man. Like it's just so easy to watch.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, he's easy to watch and he just makes me feel happy for the most part. Like he
Yes.
does like pull
But
sadness
it's
out of you, but
Yeah.
I mean, some better than others, but it doesn't feel like cheap happiness.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
cheap happiness. Like it's just like I enjoy watching this
Yes.
guy, you know. Like
And,
maybe it's because he puts so much passion
Yeah.
into his craft, but like it's just you can feel the enjoyment that he has for it, so it comes
Yes.
through like and the enjoyment I have watching it. So
And you mentioning that kind of remind me of just the Tramp character because
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about that. But like, it does like I said the word cheap happiness earlier. The Tramp, you know, every time he has happiness, it feels earned because he does go through a lot of
Yeah.
just bullshit
Yeah.
kind of thing. You know, like just doing his own thing, but at the same time, society is kind of you know fucking him over a lot. So
yeah, they are.
like, and I love how a lot of different movies are just different jobs where he has, you know, he's having to learn the hard way.
Just
kind
getting
of thing.
kicked in the ass every
Yeah,
time.
But yeah, like what else? I guess we're going to talk about more. We're going to
We are
talk
gonna
about
talk
more
about the
throughout
short. We're gonna talk about
course
a
of
lot
the
of
series
shorts,
as well.
probably,
But yeah,
but-
so I guess one more thing I wanted to mention, and it kind of relates to what you were saying about you kind of have to get into the flow of silent movies to really.
They have a different flow for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like part of that is it is kind of it's a different film language than if you were watching a modern day film. You know.
Yeah.
From like the way the characters move, right? The frame rates are actually different than what we see in a modern day film.
Yeah.
To it had to be way more expressionistic, right? Because there was no dialogue,
Yep.
right? So like that's another thing I really appreciate relating to Chaplin was he was very expressionistic. Like he had a lot of gestures. His facial reactions to things are amazing.
Yes.
But at the same time, his movies don't feel over the top a lot of the times. You know, they are very
Yeah.
basic stories, very simple characters, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so then all the expression just comes from him mainly. And that's what I really
Even
love.
though they're so simple and stuff like that, he also is really good at basically representing like he
Yes,
very
yes.
very thematic.
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes.
a lot of his movies are.
He has some great ideas, especially as he gets
Yeah.
into the features, right?
Yeah, a lot of
He
ahead
is-
of his time.
He's
honestly.
on the surface level, it'll seem very simple, right? Like even a 5-year-old can understand what's happening. But then at the same time, he's commenting on something and what he thinks about society or something.
There's like
about,
layers. You can
relationships.
enjoy it as
Yes,
like an
yes,
entertaining
layers,
movie, and then you can
exactly.
also like appreciate
Like
it
a great
for-
poem, right? Or a great,
Yeah.
great poetry. That's layers to it. And that's why to me, like he is one of the great film poets. And I'm gonna keep using this word throughout, but just the simple kind of nature to his movies is what I really love.
Yeah.
But,
And I do like how he uses the same cat, at least through his shorts and the kid. Like he uses the same people the entire time, basically. And it's because you kind of just like the more you watch these people, the more you like get their ticks and stuff like that, and you understand. Like it's just fun watching them, like because you're growing along with the characters, kind of like I don't know. It's just like you're watching these people just kind of grow through like 6 years of working with Chaplin. You know,
like that big mustache guy.
yes,
he
the big
always pops
mustache
up.
guy,
Yeah.
the freaking he's just like the driver and just stuff like that. Like he's another big mustache guy. He's not the big
Okay.
fat guy, but he's the other one.
it
With the big
usually
mustache,
is the
so-
bullies that he reuses a lot, and
Yeah.
the Purvance, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Purvance.
But yeah, a lot of the bullies he uses a lot, reuses. But like, have you guys watched other shorts, like a lot of Keaton or a lot of anything else, or is it? 'Cause for me, honestly,
I
I've
watched Cameraman the other day, and honestly, from what
Little
I've heard a lot, well, yeah, from I guess I'm getting more into the comparison between Keaton and Chaplin, but from honestly, Keaton was very heartfelt, although he didn't direct the movie. But yeah, I watched I've seen like 2 Keatons and
I've seen 2
okay.
Keatons also. I've seen the General and then the Navigator.
We were talking about this before. We'll have to get into Keaton and some other silent films, some of the
Yeah.
silent greats before. I mean, a different series or
A
something.
different series, yes.
But I guess when we come back from the break, we'll just get right into Chaplin and his shorts. We'll start with the shorts and then we'll finish with the kid. And I mean, really, to talk about Chaplin, you have to talk about his movies. So
Yeah.
we've kind of been stalling this whole time.
I've been stalling this whole time.
When we get back from the break, we'll be back with Chaplin shorts. and welcome back from the break. We are going to jump right into Chaplin shorts, and because there's so many, and well, actually the years don't span that much, but because it's so many, it feels like the years span a lot because of how many there are. We're kind of just we're gonna see where the conversation takes us, but we'll start it off with what's your favorite short, or at least what's the first one that comes to mind when if someone in the future asks you, hey, quick, what's the Chaplin short I should watch? Which one should I watch? That kind of thing. We'll start with you, Luke. What comes to mind first?
I liked a lot of them, but my favorite was definitely The Bank. Basically, what I liked about it is like it kind of did the whole, it was all a dream, but it kind of did it in a clever way.
Okay, so for someone who hasn't watched it, kind of give us a basic backstory.
Basically,
story.
Charlie Chaplin's character is working in a bank, and he's in love with the secretary. And there's a bank teller. His name is Charlie Chaplin. Charlie in the movie. Mm-hmm. The bank teller's name is Charles or is it the other way around?
You're right.
Okay, am I right? Okay.
Do we ever really? Yeah, I mean, we know the tramp's name is Charles, I guess, but because he thinks his name is Charles in the movie.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. Keep going. Sorry.
So basically, he found I guess it was a letter, right? Directed towards the bank teller, but he thought it was towards him because similar names. Basically professing the secretary's love for him, and so he thinks it's him, and then he finds out that it was the teller, and then he basically imagines like the bank getting robbed, but at the moment, like as a viewer, I didn't know it was a dream at all.
Because that's not unusual for a Chaplin short to all of a sudden some robbers come in and start robbing the bank. So.
And like basically he's like the hero of the robbery. He like beats up the robbers and stuff in a very funny way, by the way.
Yes.
And basically at the end he like is like he's the ultimate like basically like a fairy tale ending, like he gets the girl, and then it just cuts to him with the mop, and he's like he kisses the mop and is like, and then he like
because the movie or the dream sequence ends with him kissing Edna, but then right when he starts doing that, it cuts to him just sleeping while he's kissing a mop.
And it's hilarious.
But it's like. It's a good way because we'll talk about this in a lot of his shorts where the tramp actually doesn't get the happy ending, and that's kind of what makes it great, or it's not. Sure. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he gets the happy ending, but sometimes he doesn't. It's just the tramp just walking away all alone again. Cause
I think it's I love when the ending of the tramp where he writes the letter to her and then he sees him walking.
No, that's
off.
a great one. The tramp is honestly one of the great. It's probably one of my favorites. But yeah, that's one of the endings. That was the classic tramp ending.
Yeah, but he's really good at endings, honestly. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I mean, it's just short. I don't know. Blake, have you seen it?
I haven't seen The Bank.
Okay.
No.
Or we'll go to Blake now. What's the one that comes to your mind?
Oh well, the one that comes to my mind is probably Shoulder at Arms. That's what's called. Shoulder arms, not shoulder at arms. Yeah, Shoulder Arms. It's probably the first one that comes to mind. I really like the Idol Class and the Fireman too, but Shoulder Arms is probably the first one that comes to mind just because it's so funny to me. I don't know. It's like not super. It's not serious like war propaganda movie or anything like that at all. Like it is kind of a propaganda movie because he's like trying to like poke fun at the Kaiser.
But at the same time, he's very sympathetic towards the German soldiers.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Like,
because there's that one scene where the general. This is actually wrote this part down. But the general's like drinking champagne. And he's telling all his other officers like, "Pay attention to the war." And he's just drinking champagne.
The German general. Right?
Yeah, the German general. Because it's like I think he's like abusing the big fat guy or whatever. The big tall fat guy.
The way he shows the enemy army is so funny because the German general is tiny, but all the other soldiers are like huge, and they're all getting bullied by him.
Yeah, and whenever Charlie like ends up like knocking the German captain out, like the big guy like gives him a big hug or something. Oh, man. I just love that. I love the short in general because it's like a lighthearted war story. It's like not supposed to be taken seriously at all. Like this is not how like trench warfare was at all. Obviously, like he's just making this to kind of just poke fun at the Kaiser, like I said. But I just love especially the behind enemy lines part because that part's hilarious. We'll get into that more whenever we talk about
him sleeping
funny
underwater.
Scenes. The sleeping underwater thing is just ridiculous.
And one of my favorite parts is, and I almost missed it the first time I watched it, or when I was watching it. This was the first time I watched Shoulder Arms, but yeah, when I was watching it, when he captures the German soldiers, they just don't say anything. It's like because the scene before he like holds up his dog tags and he has the number 13. It's like and he's like disappointed because it's unlucky 13.
Yeah.
But then the title card just says not so unlucky 13 now or something.
Yeah.
And it just shows him first it just shows all the German soldiers, like just all the huge ones just walking, and then it shows him at the end with all the helmets on his like stick, like he's the one that captured them all, and they ask him like, "How do you do it?" And he's like, he like has no idea.
He's like, "How?"
Like he never explains or anything. He just captured all those German soldiers. I love that. But there's a lot of good bits in Shoulder Arms for sure.
There's a lot of great.
I mean, because I guess I'll. Another question I'm going to ask after we finish talking about this is, what's your guys' favorite gag? And I know yours is from Shoulder Arms too, right? So we'll save that part.
Yeah.
Because that is probably maybe my favorite part of the movie.
I mean, it's everyone's favorite part. I feel like. I mean, come on now. What was your favorite?
Okay, let me go to mine then. That's the thing. It's tough. Okay, I'll mention my first favorite, and then I'll mention my real favorite because it'll make sense when I say it first. Because my first favorite is the first movie that he actually appeared as the Tramp, the kid auto races at Venice.
Oh yeah, I watched that one. I didn't really get much enjoyment out of that.
The reason why I love it is because it's, first of all, his first acting as the Tramp was in a different movie called I think something with Mary Bell. I forgot the title, but his first actually appearance when it was released was Kid Auto Races at Venice, released in 1914, and they used to do a lot of little short comedy one-reelers like this, where they would just say, go to a live event and just do some bits in front of the people there.
Oh, that was an actual live event?
Oh, yes. No one knew who he was either at the time.
Oh, that makes sense.
So like they just thought he was just some random comedian, just like. And these auto races are literally going on right behind him. And,
I thought that was just an act, honestly.
No, all of that's real, dude. Like, and that's what makes it so cool, because if you see all the background, it's like, it's almost like a documentary. Like, you're literally at an auto race in 1914, but the whole funny part of it is just Chaplin keeps going in front of the camera and distracting, just trying to get in the way. Like,
yeah.
He's like doing, he's like acting like he doesn't know what he's doing, but he just keeps going in front of the camera and stuff. But if you look in the background, you see all the people just looking directly at the camera. They're like, because think about it, this is like just, real people at a race in 1914, and no one knew who he was too, which makes it even better. That's why no one's trying to stop him and stuff. They just thought he was some crazy guy trying to get.
Honestly, I thought it was just like, I was like, why is he just like making a movie about him getting on the camera?
I was like, damn, you didn't like it that much. But
yeah, I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, why do you do this? And I guess now I need to rewatch it with that.
Yes, no, and it's only like 7 minutes.
That sounds funny as hell.
No, it's funny. It's just knowing it's more like a documentary version of the Tramp, like, and his first appearance as well. But,
yeah.
No, it's pretty great. But then my real favorite short of it comes down to it. It has to be the Immigrant. Okay. And did you watch The Immigrant?
I didn't watch that.
I watched
it. Okay, you'll definitely need to. Because there's a lot of and I kind of mentioned this when I mentioned why I really was drawn to Chaplin and why I like him is that kind of poetic nature to him. You talked about it with the kind of layers that he has in his movies. This is really where I feel like he's starting to hit where he's starting to get a feel of what he's trying to do, where he's trying to tell like some kind of social message of these people coming to the new world on this boat and they're all happy, but then he shows you the harsh reality of like, this is what you're coming to, right? Like, this is the world you're actually coming to. But at the same time, there's still hope in it. But and another part of it is like, he called it I think he called it the most touching movie he made. Or the one he liked the most.
Out of all of, like, even the features?
Yes.
Oh,
so
wow.
I think he said that in his autobiography. I just saw that quote. I haven't got to that part yet, but even outside of that, even if it wasn't his favorite, like, there's just so many great moments in it.
Like honestly, I'm actually curious on like when he got the scene where it's like swinging stuff in the stuff. Did he actually do that with the camera?
It's apparently a camera. I initially thought it was the set.
Well, I didn't know. I was like, I don't know which one it is, honestly.
No, but there's a scene where the boat rocks while they're
eating, basically.
While they're eating, and you see it looks like the whole both tables are shaking side to side and everyone's moving.
Food's like,
but it's really the camera. So honestly, there's some good acting in that.
Yeah, it's funny because like him and the guy across from him only had one thing, so they kept on like taking turns eating it while it was rocking. It was like
genius. I guess because I don't want to. I guess no, it's not really a spoiler to any of The Immigrant, but I do want to mention at least because it's not my favorite gag, so it doesn't count. I don't want to mention it now. And it's just a perfect way to introduce the Tramp too, because the opening of the movie is they're on the boat going to New York City to see the Statue of Liberty, and come to New York and everything. But the opening shots are everyone's like throwing up, just really seasick.
Yeah.
And he just shows different people, and it's like walking across and you see everyone throwing up, and then you see the Tramp over the side of the boat. And it looks like he's throwing up because you just see him from behind, and it looks like he's throwing up with everyone else, and he's kind of shaking his body and stuff. and then he pulls up. And he was just fishing the whole time, and he had a fish. He catches the fish. He's like, looks right at the camera, like smiling. It's like, oh, it's such a good way to introduce him, dude.
And honestly, the shot of when he first shoots the Statue of Liberty, that was a really good shot. Honestly, like.
And okay, yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that because that moment is another one of the aspects I was talking about with Chaplin earlier, where it's a hopeful scene, right? Like, oh, we're here. Yeah, and it's a very beautiful scene, like, because everyone's like, oh, we're here, and then you see from the boat's shot, from both sides' view, the Statue of Liberty moving, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And it looks really good. But the next scene, literally the next shot is they start rounding up everyone, like literally like their cattle, like, oh yeah, come on. They start tying them up. It's like because the caption says something like "landed the free, we're here" or something, and the next thing is like all the employees on the boat, like just wrapping up all the passengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of like that irony almost,
Perfectly encapsulates
he's not gonna
the
he's
process.
gonna be honest more than just like like I said, cheap happiness or cheap sentimentality, but
yeah.
Okay, so we mentioned 3 shorts. So we just get into. Okay, let's just get into. What's your favorite gag?
Yeah.
Or favorite gags if you have multiple.
Yeah.
No, definitely multiple.
I mean, there's a lot, honestly, I could say, because, I mean, of course, he's a comedic genius.
I mean, yeah, especially his shorts, that's what his main thing was.
Yeah,
right?
but Blake mentioned to me one off camera that I forgot about that was hilarious. It was in Idol class. It's like the final, like, party scene, basically. And he's basically, okay, this is kind of hard to set up. This woman has a rich husband who doesn't really care about her, is a lookalike of the tramp. So then, at the moment, throughout the whole movie, she thinks the tramp is her husband. And then I forgot, how did he even get stuck in the night in the
he just put the armor on for some. He just did it just to do it. Like, I think he was gonna go dressed as a knight to the party.
Okay.
And then like the visor just fell and got stuck, and he couldn't get up because he was trying to take a drink, and then the visor fell and it got stuck, and he couldn't get back up. So
basically, yeah, the actual rich I'm gonna call him the rich tramp. The rich tramp got stuck in this knight armor, as Blake just said, and honestly, it's kind of genius because he probably did this just because he probably didn't have the technology to have 2 tramps. Pretty much.
No, probably not, yeah.
But and so basically, him and the tramp in the knight costume, the rich tramp in the knight costume, sees the tramp with his wife, and then starts like
wanting to fight,
wanting to fight the tramp. And so that now the tramp and the knight are fighting. Now the wife's confused. It got out of control.
It got hilarious because like, especially whenever the dad comes, because like he hates the tramp already because like the dad told him like he was like, you're married to my daughter. It's great or whatever. Like he was like really happy, and then Charlie's like, oh, I'm not married to her. and then like he like gets into a fight with Charlie, thinking he's just like insulting his daughter. And so, like, whenever he's starting to fight the knight too, like he punches the knight in the face and just goes like, "Oh, my head."
you're my father-in-law or whatever." It's like, you should be treated with respect or something.
He was like, "Don't you know your own son-in-law?"
Oh, yeah, that's what he said. Oh my goodness, it's hilarious.
That part of the movie is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
What about you, Blake?
I mean, my favorite, my favorite is in Shoulder Arms, and that's the reason I didn't bring it up while I was talking about it. And it's definitely whenever he's ambushing these like witless soldiers in his tree costume.
Oh my God.
Like the specific one, like I love the scene where he's just running through the forest and like hiding as a tree. But the one that got me just like laughing so hard was whenever he's just standing there and they're setting up camp, and he's like, shit. Because he's just standing there, like, just in the opening, and then, like, one guy comes over.
So funny.
Yeah, the way he stands is so funny. And the guy comes over because they need firewood to start a fire, and so he's starting to, like, he's gonna, like, chop Charlie up, and, like, he keeps on messing the axe swing up or whatever.
Yeah.
And so Charlie just, like, knocks him on the head, and then it's literally, like, he does it 2 more times because both the other guys see this guy just like unconscious next to this tree, and I just like every time I saw that, I just thought of the Metal Gear Solid, like whenever a soldier notices Snake in like in your box that you're like hiding in, it'll always pop up with like a red exclamation, go like blink, and like that's just always what I thought of whenever these like guys were just coming over, because it's just so funny. Like this is literally what you do in like video games themselves, like
It honestly is like that.
just like murdering people and then like using that one spot because it's such a good hiding spot, and they always come and never know the wiser. It's just hilarious.
And I love his like facial, and this is just true with all of Chaplin, but his face in that scene with the tree, like because you can only see his face, and like And it's just funny because he's not even in a forest.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
at
just
the
the middle of the
beginning.
field.
Because not to get in too behind the weeds, but Luke was hating on the tree costume before we
Okay,
started
yeah.
the podcast until I had to prove him like it was actually
I
pretty
forgot
good.
about that one
'Cause
scene in the
in the-
forest. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I mentioned that was because in the forest the tree actually looks way better.
It looks really good.
But when it just stands out in the field like that, it just
Yeah.
looks so funny. Like
It just looks like a
yeah, and the way he's
Just looks
standing
weird.
too, like with his arms, is
Just
great.
just staying like 2 L's basically. Oh, my goodness.
But okay, I'll get to mine, and then maybe we can talk about. We'll just talk about this. Let's talk about the shorts a little more longer before we get to the kid. But I'll mention mine. Have either of you seen The Pawn Shop?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, you watched
the
the
clock. You saw
Okay.
the clock.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
yeah.
Oh my god, dude. I mean, literally, it's just because. Okay, so I'll set it up. He works at a pawn shop as like one of the employees, and there's a lot of just different gags with the pawn shop and everything. But then there's one scene where. I guess normally the tramp would never be allowed to I don't know, maybe he did work as an employee, but in terms of offering people prices for the items and stuff, that's like one of the main employees. But one guy comes in with his like clock, and he's like obviously wanting to sell it, and no one else is there, so the tramp is the one that does like the inspection of the clock to see if it's worthy to buy, and it's kind of crazy because the pawn shop's only like 20-25 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So it's a two-reeler, but he spends maybe 5 minutes, and you never see this in a shop in like shorts this short where it's like they spend that long on like one gag where it's just him inspecting the clock is so funny because he's just slowly taking it apart. He like takes the stethoscope to it at one point. He's like using a can opener on it at one point. And this guy's just watching the whole time, and so he keeps doing this the whole time. And then, you can tell, 3/4 away, he knows he has, no way to put this back together and stuff. And so, he, at one point, he takes the guy's hat, takes all the stuff, puts it in the hat and everything. And then, at the end, he just takes all the pieces, puts them in the clock, and, puts it together and just gives it to the guy. And it's just,
Oh my God.
it's just,
Oh
the
my
fact that he spent
God.
so much time just doing that one gag, because usually most of his gags are pretty fast.
Yeah.
He's one to the next, one to the next. But he spends a decent amount of time just taking part of that clock. He must have had so much fun with that.
That's funny as shit.
That's
dude.
definitely my favorite, or at least the one that comes to my mind first. There's definitely a few favorites. I'll mention my other favorite too, because why not? At the end of A Dog's Life, where you guys have both seen A Dog's Life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, at the end of The Dog's Life, where he goes to get back the money that the other two robbers stole back from him when he's in the restaurant, and they're both eating, and they're both eating at the end table of at this bar, and he knocks out the first guy, and he's there's a curtain, and he's behind the curtain, and he knocked out the first guy, and so he puts his arms
Yes, yeah.
into the other guy's
Oh,
into the other
yeah,
guy's jacket,
yeah.
and he has to act like the other guy's not knocked out, and so he's
Oh.
it's kind of
Yeah.
plays what's that movie there, Weekend at Bernie's. It's
Yes,
it's like the
yeah,
original
yeah.
Weekend at Bernie's kind of thing, where he's using this knocked out guy to act like he's still alive,
Yeah.
and he does it for quite a bit.
He does. There's even a part where they clink mugs,
Yep,
and
that's
then
what I was exactly
and then he
mentioning,
points
yeah.
to something so he can
Yeah,
take a
yeah,
drink.
and then Chaplin, you see Chaplin come up
Yeah.
and take the drink really fast, and he has to act like he's drinking and everything.
Oh man.
Yeah, those are definitely at least the two that come to my mind first. There's definitely a lot. I good points.
There is.
I mean, one. I love when he's trying to get up the staircase in 1 a.m.
Yes. No.
That was hilarious.
Dude, everything at 1 a.m. is just so relatable because it's if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
up this late and you're just tired as shit and everything's
Yeah.
going wrong, you're just so depressed.
Of course, you're gonna think the taxidermy rug's a
Exactly.
real animal. Yeah. And then the bed was hilarious.
Dude, the bed
too.
scene was just at a certain point, you just do what he did and just lay on the floor,
And then just-
and then the bed comes down, and hits him in the face, basically.
damn. And he's like, "Screw it, I'm just gonna sleep in the bathtub." Honestly,
Yeah.
at this point.
No,
Okay.
all of his shorts are honestly really funny. There are some that end weaker than others on. I honestly
Yeah, no,
they're
that's-
the one that I watched that I thought was this is a really weak ending is Sunnyside,
No, it definitely is.
where
It
it's
definitely is.
I didn't get this entire time that she liked the tramp.
Yeah,
I thought that she
no,
liked the
you're
rich guy, and then she just ends up with the tramp, and I'm just
No,
this is weird.
Sunnyside is very messy. It's a messy,
Yeah.
more
It's
messy
probably
than
my
others.
least favorite that I watched during this watch.
I think that's First National as well.
I think it is.
and
That's one of the
kinda-
ones that Criterion.
And that's
so.
kind of what I want to get into is, I guess I haven't mentioned it too much, but or I don't even think I've really mentioned it. Where over the course of these 3 or 4 years, where he's making all these shorts we're talking about, he worked with 4 different studios, And I kind of want to at least ask, like, um, could you tell compared to some of the earlier shorts versus some of the later ones that the stories do start to become a little more developed? You know, like especially with some of the early tramp shorts where it's the tramp is kind of just a character, you know. He, like you're not feeling as much sympathy for him. There's not a lot of character development, and you start to get that more and more, especially you know, like with the dogs.
That's what I felt. That's what I felt for sure. It's like I don't think I didn't see any of the Keystone ones, and I saw the only ones I saw I think were Mutual and First National. And so, like, the Mutual ones are very much just basically like gag movies where you aren't supposed to. Like, they are very good gag movies, but
and because I don't want to forget this, but he did say in his autobiography that working at Mutual was the happiest time of his life.
Okay, I mean, you can kind of see that because the movies are fun as hell.
Yes,
like they are really
exactly,
fun.
Yes, he got it's before he's trying to do more. For the time, experimental, you know, getting more story into the comedy, right? Yeah. It was like him at his best comedy-wise.
Yes.
And there have been a lot of people have said that, like, the Mutual ones are probably his best.
I've really enjoyed watching it. The Mutual
his pure
ones.
gag comedy kind of thing.
Yeah, because like I want like like I brought the Fireman up a couple times. The Fireman's hilarious, dude. Because like Charlie Chaplin is not like a fireman at all, and like this guy's like, have you?
I saw the Fireman. Yeah.
Yeah, because like probably my favorite scene is like he messes everything up,
Oh.
but whenever, so like earlier he won't wake up for the bell. And so whenever the fire chieftain tells him like to wake up for the bell, or like you have to be ready to go whenever the bell rings, like every time a bell rings, he drops what he's doing to go to the truck. So because he's the driver of like the fire truck, so he goes to the truck to drive to like, or like it's not even a fire truck, I guess it's like a chair, it's like a wagon, like a fire wagon still, because they use horses. But there was one scene where he's dishing out soup. And there's this guy, I think it's just like a newspaper guy or some. It's like some guy out in the front is just like ringing a little like bell like this, like just ringing it. And Charlie literally drops the entire big pot of soup onto the fire chieftain's head and runs out there. And I don't know why that got me. I was just like, this fucking guy, dude.
I love the scene in that movie where he's pointing the fire hose at the house, and then he's like, everyone's in front of it, like, no.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, that's I definitely get that in Mutual though. Like he definitely seems to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where two of his more known.
Because you can kind of tell the First National ones. I'll at least mention the ones I can remember is A Dog's Life, Shoulder Arms, Sunnyside, and the Pilgrim. And the Kid. Actually, the Kid, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. That's also First National as well. But what were you going to say?
I forgot about a really good gag. I don't know if you guys watch Payday.
I haven't yet.
Okay, the movie basically he's a bricklayer, and basically he's sitting on like a higher thing. All three workers are having lunch and sitting on a higher basically level of what they're building, and there's a kind of elevator thing you can put stuff on to bring stuff up, and they're eating lunch, and like the whole time when they're eating lunch, basically the top guy would have his sandwich and he'd put a ingredient down on a sandwich, and then the thing would randomly go up, and then like the Chaplin would get it, and then he'd start eating it, and he'd play something else, and that go up and down. It's hard to explain because there's so much to it.
Watch that.
Yeah. I forgot about that part, but yeah. Good.
I should mention this because we are talking about shorts, and it'll apply to all the silence, but none of these had full scripts. He was way more of honestly a true comedian, like improv. Like he loved being in the moment kind of thing. And there's a lot of stories of like he would just tell people to build a set just to buy him more time so he could think of like what he wanted to do next, like things like that, because he just loved. Honestly, kind of like I'm sure a lot of comedians are when they're on stage. Like it is some planning, but they're also improvising on the spot kind of thing too. They kind of have to see how they feel at the moment almost.
Yeah.
And that's what. I guess because you mentioned this at the beginning when you said you like Chaplin, like how you can see how much of his heart he puts into it.
Yeah, me and Luke both mentioned that.
Yeah, I think we all kind of.
Yeah, we all did. Yeah.
But yeah, I just love that. Just the aspect of not even having scripts. He literally had to be on the spot before he could really know. Like that's, just total. He had total trust in himself, kind of thing.
Yeah, you can definitely see it too.
And and that'll just get more impressive as we get to his more story-oriented stories films coming up.
Yeah, one thing I did want to mention before we get to like just the Kid in general is I didn't know until you told me, but I thought that they were literally one step away from just like putting voiceover in these movies, because like I honestly didn't understand why like at least these Charlie Chaplin movies that we were watching, especially on Criterion, were like didn't have talking almost, because it's like especially in I'm thinking of like the kid, especially whenever whenever the kid throws the baseball at the window and it breaks, and then you hear the glass shatter. And you're like, they're literally just like,
that was added after.
yeah, and I mean, like, once you said that, it makes more sense,
Yeah.
because if I was thinking, I was like, if they can do this, then like, what's stopping them from just like recording voiceover?
Yeah.
Because like, if they were like this close, then it's like, and like I saw this in like The Vagabond too, where he's like playing the violin,
Okay,
and like
right,
he add the violin playing in there,
Yes.
and I like you said that probably was add after, and that
Yes.
would make a lot more sense, because I was like, if they can add this stuff, then like, why didn't they just think to add voices to?
Because Chaplin was, and that's, I mean, we're going to talk about this later on in his career, but he was one of the directors that moved from silent to sound.
Yeah.
And he did, because you're going to hear throughout the course of this podcast his various scores, at least for the kid that he did. And obviously at the time of silent films, you couldn't compose your own score at the same time you did your film, right? Because it was just silent.
Yeah.
A lot of the scores that the people at the time would hear during their silent films were live scores.
Yeah.
Right, because they didn't have the sound technology. But when sound technology came and people still liked Chaplin movies, he went back and composed his own scores for a lot of these movies. And and like you said with the glass scene and the kid, he must have done that with sound effects too, because I don't think Criterion would just add that unless it was him. I'm pretty sure that, like, maybe
Criterion
YouTube people
definitely
but like, yeah, I don't think Criterion would unless
they
it was
definitely
approved by
would.
him. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he might have actually did what you're saying, where he went back and added sound.
Yeah, because like I was just watching these and I was like, they're literally just like literally one mini step away from adding voices.
And that's honestly because that's how good they were at expressing what
Yeah.
they wanted to express, right? Like you can almost hear the sound without hearing the sound,
Yeah.
kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Even if they didn't add it, really, for me anyway.
No, I mean, like you can read their lips. They're very good at enunciating their lips.
The best part,
so.
Chaplin's expressions and
Yes.
reactions.
Oh, yes.
You know, that's honestly the best part.
That is the best part for sure.
No,
that was just something I wanted to mention though, because that was something that went through my mind, especially watching the kid. I was like, they're so close. Like, they're so close. Like, why?
No, they were. And that's honestly a great point. Like, a lot of people think like when they think of silent movies, they just think, and it is a jump to some degree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, and it's hard for me to go back in time to how I thought about silent films before I watched any, but it's not as big as a leap as you would think.
It's not.
You know, like once you start to get into it, you're like,
You just
I
have
can
to
see it.
watch.
Like you're saying, you start to hear the sound
Yeah.
as someone as at the time would have been watching it. You know, like it doesn't take. It's not that hard.
You
These are
just
great
need to
movies.
spend a little bit of time.
It
with
takes some effort.
Yeah, it does.
Right?
It takes a
like
little bit of
learning
effort.
anything
on
new,
your end.
but it's not as hard. Like it's not as like. This is probably true with anything that
probably.
that takes a lot of time and not a lot of time, but to enjoy. But it's definitely true with silent films. It's not just like boring, like I want to get what's happening kind of thing. It is. It's not that hard. Like.
And honestly, I would love to watch a silent movie like back in the day, like whenever they first
With the live
came out.
score.
With the live score,
yeah.
because like that's something like I know in the Page of Madness they did, like because Page of Madness doesn't have it, like it's completely silent. Like they didn't
watch
add
on
anything
YouTube.
to it. Yeah,
The music added is
the music adds by other people. So
Yeah.
like the one I watched didn't have anything in it because I didn't want to hear music that other people added.
I just like.
But-
I can see both sides. Like,
Yeah, I don't know,
but I know
but
what you mean,
but
yeah.
like that one like specifically had like a Japanese orchestra with it every time, like every theater, like it had like they just played different scores, like it wasn't even the same score, you know, like it wasn't even the same music that they were playing all the time. And it'd just be really cool to go back to like a Charlie Chaplin movie and just like even watch it in one city and then go like watch it in New York and then watch it in like LA.
That would have been cool. Yeah.
And see if the orchestra is doing something different, or like if the score.
I have thought about that, like because a lot of the live scores at the time were just local, right? You're watching the theater, you never know what they're gonna do. Like,
because like you could drive from LA to New York, but it would take like freaking a week probably back in the day. So. Like there weren't many people that probably saw these movies in multiple different cities, you know. Like you were always seeing it in just your city.
And
so.
I mean, Chaplin was he was one of the first mega movie stars.
Yeah.
You know, so he was being seen all around the world as well. Like,
that'd be interesting. Like watching a Charlie Chaplin movie in France and see what they have with it.
But that's how powerful, at least even if you're getting away from sound, how powerful his images are and his acting is, right? Like, even if the sound was totally different, no matter where you were hearing it. The real power of the movie is his acting and his gestures and the stories, you know, that kind of thing. Like,
it works.
It really didn't matter.
It works with anything you put over.
Yeah, because the images are so good, a lot of music works with it. You know, you just need some basic kind of good sounding music, and it'll for the most part it'll work with a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
But we'll maneuver right into the kid then, because I guess I'll mention that with the music is the music in this is great.
It is.
And part of it, the reason why it's great is because he composed the music as well. After, like how we've been talking about, once the sound era started, he realized he could go back and add music and sounds to some of these. And the kid, it just has a great score right from the opening, composed by Chaplin and everything. It's just great listening to it, watching it this time. But I guess I'll ask you guys first, or Blake. We'll start with you. When you hear the kid, his first feature, I guess we haven't mentioned that yet. His first feature film, which is why we chose it for this. What do you think? Do you see a lot of differences? Do you see
Definitely
a lot of similar?
This one's more sad. It's more heartbreaking in certain points, especially whenever you don't know like where it's going. Like the entire last act of this movie is honestly really heartbreaking because it shows just kind of like the orphan system in America at the time. Like probably a hyper realized version of it because it's Chaplin, but like this is probably like if the cops found out that you weren't this orphan kid's like father, you know, like they would take him to an orphanage because like that's not legal in the eyes of the state or anything, you know. So like it's just a really harrowing, you know, like the last act of that movie is really harrowing because you've spent the first 30 minutes of this movie loving these two guys, like the relationship these two guys have, like the kid and the tramp have, and to see him like forcibly taken away from his father. And honestly, like I was watching this at lunch, and it was like kind of like almost bringing tears to my eyes. Like Charlie Chaplin's like fighting so hard to keep his son. I'm like, damn, dude.
I think Benny Safdie said that he cries every time after he watched this movie.
After the kid.
Yeah.
It's a sad moment because it's been 5 years, you know.
Yeah.
And just the way he relates both of their lives throughout the movie, how they're very similar, just how they're both treated, how they were both up, that kind of thing.
It definitely felt like Chaplin began his like getting into his more sentimental, you know, basically what he's mainly known for.
Well, it's he's getting more into that, almost like the swing of emotions. He's fully swinging to because he still has the comedy, right? There's some great, but it's not. He's trying to see how much he can go to both sides. You know, how much can he like literally from scene to scene, like. There's the great boxing scene, right? We'll just We'll just talk about that scene. The great boxing scene where he gets he sees the kid fighting and he first wants to stop him.
Yeah.
And then he sees the kids winning and everyone's betting and he's like, oh okay, and he starts punching him up and stuff. But anyway, so when that scene ends, everyone's happy. Literally right after that, Edna comes in holding the kids like he's sick. Like right after that, he doesn't even give you a break. Like a lot of it just is trying to see how much he can go back and forth with that. And that's kind of what this whole movie is. It's like a lot of swing of emotions. And okay, well, before we get to the ending, because that's what I was just about to mention, but we'll get to Luke because I don't even think you've mentioned like what do you think of the kid?
I liked it. Yeah. Admittedly, I forgot to rewatch this movie, so it's.
I mean, we'll give you a break. You watched like what you said,
20 Charlie Chaplin shorts. And yesterday, in one day, I watched 20 Charlie Chaplin shorts, and none of them were the kid. All right,
none of them were the kid.
But you've seen it before. So
it's a pretty good movie from what I remember. I mean, just Chaplin making you sad.
It is one of his more sentimental ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he does get more ironic or more sarcastic in some of his other ones compared to this one.
Yeah.
But I still like that. Like even the sentimentality parts are really good because they. At the same time, they feel earned because of the ending. Yeah. And because of what you're saying, that the emotional scene where the kid does get taken away.
Yeah, it honestly just feels earned in general because, like, you see at the very beginning, like you see their entire like relationship kind of like it does pass 5 years, but you see that the tramp doesn't want the kid at the very beginning either, and that's one of the best gags in the movie too, where he just sees the kid in the dumpster. He picks it up and then puts it back, and the cop's standing there, and so the cop he basically has to take the kid because the cop thinks it's his kid, and so you just see he didn't want this kid to begin with, and you can feel their relationship and how it grew in those 5 years just in that one frame.
Just the one frame,
because you see, I think the first scene after the frame is the kid acting like the tramp.
Yep, he's sitting on the same sewer edge where the tramp was, or maybe a similar one.
It's right in front of the house.
And the way they introduce the kid 5 years later is funny because you see him sitting there, but then I think it goes to a wide shot or the camera pans to the cops just suspiciously looking on him the same way he would look at the tramp,
Yeah. And then even his mannerisms are just he walks like the tramp.
It's a great acting performance by him.
It is.
Yeah.
I love the scene. We need to bring up. It was the scene where like I forgot where. I think it was towards the end of the movie. My mind's rusty, but when the whole street and everyone turns into angels or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's the ending.
That's the dream sequence.
Okay, I thought that was right before the ending, though.
No,
It is
okay.
right.
Yeah,
So,
gotcha.
because I kind of wanted to talk about that scene.
Yeah.
It's honestly one of the reasons why this movie moves. That scene alone takes this movie from like good to great for me.
Oh,
'Cause
yes,
it kind of
it
changes
does.
a
It
lot
does
of
to
the.
me,
It
too.
just it changes, and that it's the same with the dream sequence in the bank that you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
where it kind of just. And just it's a little way it changes the whole perspective of the movie, where it's like
Yeah.
because we'll just get to that now. The dream sequence is it's after the kid gets taken away from him, and he's already gone through the chase and everything, and he comes back home like really dejected, and he just sits on the curb and he just starts to sleep. And all of a sudden, just one shot, you can tell it changes to a dream because he's on the curb and it just his house or the apartment he's at, the door looks all like just rugged and everything.
Yeah.
But then one shot later, there's flowers all over the doors, there's all over the buildings and stuff, and you can just tell he's in a dream just from that one shot alone. Like that's all he needed. And then you see, like you said, the dream starts with him being in heaven, and there's like angels everywhere. And then his son, not his son, but I guess the John in the movie,
Yeah, John.
walks out of the door in his angels, and he's like basically telling the tramp he's got to put his wings on. So then the tramp goes to get his wings fixed and everything, and it's just a great moment of them flying around and everything. But then, temptation comes in with these like dancing devils, where they're just like tempting all the angels and stuff. And long story short, the dream ends even worse than what had just happened to him because he gets shot. Basically, spoiler alert: he gets shot. The cop shoots him at the end of the dream sequence, and so the tramp ends up dead. But then, right when he ends up dead, the cop is waking him up in real life.
He's like,
and
shaking
so like
him.
so like it's so weird that, and I kind of wanted to ask you this, but what do you guys think that why is that dream there? Like, what does that even? Why did he put that there? Because it doesn't seem. It's a weird ending for a dream, leading right into him actually having a kind of happy ending.
Maybe it's like okay.
What do you think? 'Cause I don't think it's a wrong answer.
I haven't really thought about it. Maybe it's like Chaplin saying this could be this could be what I could do as the bad ending, but then shows you the good ending.
Okay.
Maybe something like that.
He's trying to give you both endings.
Yeah,
I kind of just liked it. I honestly thought it brought like his whole feelings on the kid in general to like to like the forefront, because it's like he's so happy with the kid. Like this is his version of this town, like this street with the kid.
Yes.
Like this is how he sees it whenever he has the kid with him.
Oh, okay.
And it's like whenever the
I like
kid
that.
disappears, flies away. I can't remember if he flies away or just disappears. Like the next frame, he's just not there. But like that's basically death to him. Like he doesn't want to live, and like so the cop just shoots him. I don't know. Like,
No. There's.
I
Something
know he
that
runs
happens.
away, but
yeah, there's something that happens.
well, because the kid flies away or he just disappears. Like I know that he flies away, and then like the next frame, it's just like he's there and then disappears.
Well, what happens? Why the cop starts chasing him is
that's the jealousy. Jealousy.
Where he starts hitting on another guy's wife.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny especially for like a 1920s movie where initially the guy's like, oh yeah, you can have my wife, like, go ahead, and it's like heaven. But then all of a sudden the jealousy devil comes up to him, and it just says one word, jealousy. And all of a sudden the husband starts getting mad at Chaplin, at the tramp, and then that's why the cop starts chasing him, because they had that fight scene, and then he gets shot like that.
Yeah.
At the end of that.
But I kind of just feel like that's just like his life is basically just dead if he doesn't have the kid with him. That's kind of how I viewed that. Like this is just kind of like his like how he views his life with the kid.
Okay.
Like it's just really happy, and he
especially
wants him in
when
his
they start
life,
flying
so.
around together.
That seems so
it's
so pretty. It's so sad though too, because you don't know like the ending, the actual ending is coming.
Yeah. But yeah, what did you guys actually think of the actual ending though? Honestly, I liked it.
No, that's what I was gonna ask, and I guess we'll kind of close on that. Do you guys think it's just a pure happy ending? Because what I like about the ending more than it being happy, it is a happy ending. Like it's a satisfying ending.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of honest. At the same time, he doesn't get to keep the kid.
No.
Yeah. He's literally just going to visit the kid at his actual mother's house. He's probably gonna have to leave, and like you could easily see another. He could have just added one more frame where the tramp is walking back after visiting, and he's walking down the street again, all alone, because he is kind of still alone at the same time, he gets to see the kid now and everything, but it's not his kid anymore,
Unless they get married.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, that is possible.
A tramp married to a famous actress.
Not sure how that would work.
Not sure. I always thought of it as kind of happy, but as mostly happy tinged
Mostly
with
happy.
a little bit. It's like bittersweet kind of.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, yes.
Because at least he knows like he gets to see.
He'll get to
it.
see
At least
it,
the kid's not in an orphanage, like he thought he was. So, and honestly, like that scene where like they stay at the hotel is really good because like he gets in, gives him the quarter or whatever, and then he opens up the window real
that's a
quick,
great,
and the kid jumps in the
great,
bed.
like, I guess choreography.
Yeah,
almost.
probably choreography. would
Right,
be the
because right
words.
when the guy in charge of the bed house where he's at, like looks away. That's
right whenever he
rolls
opens
in.
it,
It's like
yeah.
two motions. And all
It's
of a
so
sudden the guy
good.
looks
It's
back.
so fast too.
Yeah, it's so fast. Yeah.
No, because I honestly love that entire scene in the bedroom or the hotel or whatever you want to call it because, like, you see first like he's broke as shit. Obviously, the tramp. Like he doesn't want to give the guy any money, so he gives him the money finally. I think he ends up getting the quarter back or something because he goes to the bed and the pickpocket's there looking through his pockets in his sleep, and I just started dying laughing.
Because it's such a great moment because the reason why he finds another coin was so the pickpocket is in his pocket taking the coin out, and then the tramp notices the hand holds it, and then he's like, wait.
Yeah.
And he's like surprised that he had a coin.
Yeah.
And so then he takes the coin, but then he takes the pickpocket's hand and has him search his other pockets.
Yeah.
So he's like, can he find some other
That's
coins?
right. I laughed so hard
Yeah,
at that because
great.
I was like, the pickpocket, like, trying to pick his pocket in his sleep was just so funny. But then, like, even just the slow realization of, like, because he slowly zooms in on that, the reward, $1,000 reward. And before, like, he's reading the other side, and then you slowly see him flip, and you're like, oh shit, well, you know where this is going. And then like you just it's kind of just harrowing. Like that's where the harrowing stuff like this it had already started before that, but like this was supposed to be like a kind of safe spot.
No, because remember, I mean, and I guess we should talk about we did talk about a little bit but really where the whole movie is hinged on is the scene where the kid gets taken.
Yeah.
And just because I haven't, I'm trying to read his autobiography while we go through the podcast, but I've kind of read like how he grew up. And he did grow up in a lot of like, because his parents were divorced and they were really poor and everything. Like he grew up in a lot of like, not orphanages, but like just halfway houses, workhouses. Like he was always moving. Like he lived at these different schools, where kids didn't have parents, that kind of thing. So he kind of like there's even that title card where it puts in quotes like "Here comes the help" or something, or like, "Here comes the basic good guy." I don't know what he said exactly, I think, but I'll kind of try to find it. But it says quotes: "The proper care and attention."
The proper care,
and it's like the evil.
The orphanage.
The evil. Because the reason why he's not evil, but like you can tell Chaplin doesn't like him is the guy doesn't even directly talk to the tramp.
Yeah. At
the beginning, remember he only talks to his assistant, and then the assistant has to tell the tramp like what he's doing.
Yeah.
And the tramp has to talk back to the assistant has to talk to him, the main orphanage guy. But then even better than that is the orphanage guy has to go and get the cop, like to even add on to it, right? The quote unquote proper care and attention for this kid. But really, the whole movie to me like hinges on that part. But then the rooftop chase scene right after that. And you think, that's when you really think he's going to lose the kid, but he actually gets the kid back. Yeah. All the rooftop scene, he gets the kid, and then the way he loses him, it's just
that's why it's like makes him even more sad.
Yeah, it does, because you're like, oh,
like those are the swings of emotions you're talking about.
Yep.
Trying to see how far you can swing you. No, because like that it honestly does hinge on like the kid being taken. The whole movie does, and it's such a sad scene because like it's so obvious the kid doesn't want to like leave Chaplin. Like he doesn't. He even though it's not the best life, obviously, like this is the life he knows and it's the life he loves, and it's probably a better life than living in an orphanage. Like, I mean, at least he has someone that loves him. So, like a lot of orphans don't even have that,
But at the same time, you can't even blame the doctor, right? For when he comes,
and
he's because the kid is sick, right? So he's the doctor's kind of doing the right thing too.
The doctor is because, especially since the tramp has
at least
no
from
money.
his view,
the tramp has no
and
money,
the kid is
so
sick,
he can't properly he can't properly care, like in quotation marks, for the kid, like.
But at the same time, we've already seen the scene where he's working as a window glass fixer, and his kid and John is the one breaking the windows, or. One of my favorite moments is when John is the one cooking pancakes in the morning and trying to get the tramp to wake up. Yeah. While the tramp is like lazy in bed. And then the way they eat the pancakes,
so
like
good.
He's like neither one of them knows how to use any of the silverware. It's like it's amazing, like just the way that little details like that. It just and what's kind of insane is I don't even know if we've mentioned this yet. This movie is only 53 minutes, and we've mentioned all these kind of different swings of emotions, these different character arcs and everything. It just all of this is packed in a little 50-minute movie.
And what I've noticed from you talking is like Chaplin is like he's very his attention to detail is insane. Like what you're saying about like
So is there something that comes to mind or
like what we were talking about with the police officers, like the child care services assistant talking to the tramp, like
yes
and like just everything about
the way
like,
they pancakes, even
like he packs so many jokes into in his movies that you do need to watch multiple times to really catch.
It's even just the attention to detail of like him getting his wings for the first time, and then scratching them with his cane, like because they're itchy. Is like, I don't know. There's just so many.
But then there's
things.
just these little. Okay, I wanted to mention this before we stop, but there's these. He just and this story's starting to get going on his really like truly poetic images too, because like in his early shorts, they are just more for comedy, straight like what's the funniest thing I could possibly do. But in these, he's starting to get there here, where it's like the one I always think of is where Edna comes. She's already an actress later, but she's still looking for a kid. But she comes to the that famous door where Chaplin falls asleep, and she comes and sits down on the bottom step, and you can tell she's thinking about her child, but she looks happy. But then John comes out, sits on the top step, and they're both smiling at each other.
Yeah.
But they don't. But like John is looking at her like, oh, if only I had a mother, and she's looking at him like, if only I had like my kid.
Yeah.
But they don't know. But it's just like one single shot, and they're just smiling. But it's such a powerful image just in that one moment there. And it's silent. You don't have to say anything. Literally, like they don't have to put any.
And honestly, because that scene wouldn't have worked if you wouldn't have seen early in the movie, whenever because she didn't want the kid either. And that's why she wrote the note saying, "Please look after this kid." But once she actually gets him stolen, she's she
tries to go right back. Yes,
she's like, "Holy shit! Like, where's my kid?" And like that's why like that scene especially is so good, because she's giving away toys to the kids in need, because that's what she feels called to do, because she can't do that for the kid that she lost, or she doesn't think that she can do that for the kid that she lost, and she finds him again. But
no, it's he just packs so much in this movie, and we'll come to that in later movies as well. Like we've been saying, that swing of emotion, that kind of I guess I didn't even think about the attention to detail. He is very detailed oriented, and just knowing he had so much control over his movies. I think
all silent masters, like all the silent best silent directors, had to be,
especially because they knew people were paying way more attention to the gestures.
Oh yeah.
And the movements people were doing. Like this is kind of off topic, but I remember I've been when we're doing the French New Wave, I was reading Eric Romer interviews. And he said the reason why he got into film initially was, and this was after sound movies had come out and everything, but he wasn't really a film fan until he started watching silent movies. And he realized like just the potential that existed in movies. And the main reason was he noticed how much various gestures mattered back then in the silent films compared to movies now, where the acting is way more laid back, way more naturalistic, whatever that means. But back then, like you were saying, the directors had to pay way more attention to every movement people were making. And that was true of the audiences too. They actually had a smart eye. They were actually watching for the stuff that we would just miss completely, a lot of the times. And that's what makes it cool, like what Blake mentioned earlier at the beginning, is there's a certain, you have to get into the flow of it. You kind of have to watch 20 okay, you don't have to do that, but you have to watch 20 shorts in one day.
You can, I mean...
that sounds amazing, honestly. I mean, I watched like 10 in one day, so I can't say too much. But
it's just so easy. Like we said, it's just so easy to watch Chaplin movies.
True.
But I guess we'll save our last words for later. I guess the kid. I don't even know if I don't even know if it's in my top 5 Chaplins, which is crazy. But the dream sequence alone just puts it as one of my favorites, just because I'll always think of that scene when I think of Chaplin. Because I guess you pointed out earlier he does do that in other movies, but like The Bank. But we're going to talk about it in later movies as well. But he loves the dream sequence, and I love directors that can do a good dream sequence. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, we'll end it for now. I think that's a good place to stop. Next week, we are doing A Woman of Paris for sure.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to do that was because he's not in the movie.
Yeah.
And so it's basically just him directing a different story without the tramp or anything. So I thought that would be great. And then we decided City Lights.
Yeah.
Because classic movie.
It's like a bit off-putting because I feel like A Woman in Paris is like a real pretty lesser known movie, and then City Lights is like his most known.
Okay, yes. Yeah. It's a good juxtaposition.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah.
And so really, I have to feel guilty because every Chaplin movie is basically great, but the two we're skipping is The Gold Rush and The Circus.
Yeah.
And both great movies, but I think the ones we're picking are definitely, I think, better. So those are the ones we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah.
Basically, but until then, see you next time.
I'm tired of the city of smokestack and steel. I'm tired of the grind of the factory wheel. I'm spreading my wings and I'm ready to fly to the land of a wide open sky. I'm bound for Texas, bound for Texas, bound for Texas land, to hear the moo and rattle of snakes and cattle. I'm bound for Texas land. I'll save up my money and look for a wife who'll be true and a pal for life. I'll build her a home and a room for a child, with the roses around growing wild. I'm bound for Texas, bound for Texas, bound for Texas land, to hear the moo and rattle of snakes and cattle. I'm bound for Texas land. I'll sing her a song at the end of the day, a song that will drive all our cares away. I'll sing of the prairie, the blue starry skies, and the stars shining bright in her eyes. I'm bound for Texas, bound for Texas, bound for Texas land, to hear the moo and rattle of snakes and cattle. I'm bound for Texas land.